Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Behind the Walls with Pete and
Ferg.
I only just realised that I'm the only person that calls Ferg. So much so that he got it put on his runners. He got the name Ferg put on his runners. Come on, show the camera, Ferg.
Don't think this should be highlighted.
Who does he think he is? Cristiano Ronaldo or something? Oh my God. Anyway, we digress. Today we have a bit of competition in the room, Ferg. Am I right in saying that? A bit of competition in the room. Today we have Mr. Stuart Hobbs, who is from SSE. Stuart, welcome to the podcast.
Brilliant, nice to be here. Delighted to be here.
So tell us who you are, what you do, Stuart.
Yeah, well, firstly, thanks for introducing this competition. But if I was being really honest, I think Fergal will tell you as well. There's actually no competition. There's so much to be done in this industry over the next while. We are all actually working to figure out the problems.
builder out there too.
Friends.
It honestly is true. I mean, I think there'll be some day when we will compete, but right now, that's not today. But no, just to give you a bit of background, I'm Stuart. I'm the Director of Energy Services and Solutions at SSE Airtricity. And I make a really simple percent of people. I work with a team of people who give customers everything that is not the energy itself. So we kind of provide retrofits, upgrades, solar PV, heat pumps. We work with businesses and domestic customers as well. So we're looking after all of our customers' needs in terms of solutions and services.
So tell us exactly who SSE are. Are you a company? Are you an institution? Are you a government body?
Yeah, no, so we're an energy company. We came from the origins of Airtricity, which was set up by O'Connor back in the 2000s, and then it was bought out by SSE. So SSE is a UK company that operates both network businesses and supply businesses across the UK and Ireland, and that was kind of the origins of SSE Airtricity. Essentially, what we do in Ireland today is we provide supply to customers, so electricity and gas. We have my business, a solutions and services business, but we also operate significant onshore and offshore wind farms. Both UK and Ireland. Like just today, for example, we're building the largest wind farm in the world off the east coast of the UK. We do thermal generation as well. So, and in the UK specifically, we operate networks, distribution networks and transmission networks. So we're a full integrated utility providing all the end-to-end services of an energy company.
So what do you do with your spare time?
Well, I thankfully don't do all of that.
I was busy until...
Mine is only a very, very small part of that and a small little corner of SSE.
Never say that. I'm Pete the Builder, I do everything. You do everything.
But again, I mean, it is a great organisation to be involved in because, again, you can make an impact at all levels of the energy. Because I think think about the kind of world we're going to have tomorrow and into the future, it requires all of that. It requires adaptation in terms of how we produce energy. So in terms of, moving towards onshore and offshore renewables as opposed to what we were used to, which is burn coal, burn oil, burn gas. We'll still burn gas for a while. Right through to the networks that transport that energy around the energy system. Again, that needs to modernize. It used to be an energy system that had houses that had a small amount of demand, and now they're going to have electric vehicles, they're going to have heat pumps, they're going to have solar PV, and you need modern networks to transport all that and to take on all this additional demand that's going to come on. And then it needs energy companies and supply companies who are going to meet the customers where they're at. So again, how do we kind of make sure that we get the pricing right in terms of the cost of energy, keep that down as low, think about vulnerable customers, but then also think about, so I've worked in energy for 27 years now, nearly.
Giving away your age, dude.
I know, I have age, like a fine wine. But, I worked in ESB and then I worked in SSE Airtricity. But the expectations of an energy company has totally changed. When I was working in ESB, it was literally customer gets a bill, they pay the bill. And in Ireland, we never really thought about it. That has totally transformed because of a number of things. One, cost of energy and the changing needs of the energy system, and also because of climate change. So customers are actively now starting to think about how I use energy, how I reduce that energy, how I protect the future of the planet for our kids. And that's changed to a point where we now have what used to be called consumers now changed into prosumers. So essentially customers who now think about how do I use that energy and how can I take control of how I use that energy as opposed to prosumers. So essentially,
never heard that saying before. Have you ever heard that? I'm going to rob it off you. But go ahead, go on. Explain
but essentially, it just means that rather than being a passive customer, so somebody who just takes energy into their home, uses it, and gets a bill and pays for it, we now have customers who want to be more in control of how they consume that energy, not feeling it's being energy given to them, but they decide how they get it, how they receive it, how they use it, and can they take advantage of that? Again, you see so many changes in the industry in terms of, it used to be just you got a bill. Now consumers can make money from energy that they produce and have on their own home. So again, it's just to give the context of that perspective of an energy company has completely changed, and in such a short time. And it is probably the most disrupted industry in the world today compared to what it used to be like. And as I said, in my short time, in the scale of energy and energy in the world in those 27 years, it is night and day to the kind of energy companies that I joined when I first started working to the energy company it is today.
So Ferg, Stuart invented the light bulb, obviously. Like, what have you done for the industry?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the word competition, like, and Stuart said there is none, and any true wind are building the biggest wind farm.
Yeah. What have you done?
We haven't even got the smallest wind farm. Like, no, but we were actually just talking to Stuart before we came in here about kind of homeowner awareness.
Yeah.
And when I started in the industry, Stuart, I would have always found that, it was kind of like what's a tracker mortgage? It was always, what's a heat pump?
Yeah.
And we've moved on so far from that. I think it's great. But how do you see it from your side in terms of, I know we're in the same industry, but it's interesting to hear different opinions on homeowner perspectives or the inquiries that are coming in.
Yeah.
People's expectations, I suppose. How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, we would definitely see there is an absolute heightened sense of curiosity in the market about thinking about upgrading your home. But there's different levels of kind of say how informed that curiosity is. You have people who would come to us they've done all their homework. They know they could give you the names of 5 different brands of a heat pump. They've done all the research in terms of which is better, how it fits, the types of solar PV. They've done the calculations on the returns. There's that level of customers who, again, they want to be convinced of your technical expertise, how well you're going to support them. Are you listening to them? Can you challenge, but also sometimes can you stand back and maybe let them get what they need? But I think that's important too. Right down to people who are really curious and want to do it. Like my mom's a great example. If I said to my mom, like, who are you with for your energy? I don't have a clue. Yeah. I couldn't tell you. And I might say to her, if you thought about it, you should get solar PV. It's a really good idea. Like, she's like, how'd you do that? And like, what's that? Like, and so there's that level of consumers where it's, people who are really well informed to people who are, yeah, I'd love to do it, but I don't have a clue where to start.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to kind of meet all their needs, so.
And I think, Stuart, to be fair to your mum and to loads of other people, you said it yourself, you said it's a disrupted industry, but I think it's a very evolving industry.
Absolutely.
Like literally every single time that you hear any news, it's about a new technological advancement. It's about, the next thing that's coming in that's going to be better than the thing that was just released a month ago. So I do think, and what happens is I think people's concentration levels kind of drop down. They go, oh, look, there's so much stuff happening there, I can't keep up with it. But I would also say, on the other hand, amazing podcasts like the Behind the Walls podcast and other information that's out there, people are slowly beginning to understand it, and they're beginning to probably be a little bit more hungry to learn more. So I'd say we're dealing with a more informed audience than we used to.
Yeah.
But we still have a long way to go. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
I mean, that's definitely true. But also sometimes they're scared of what the first step is. 100%. And I think also, as you say, they do kind of, because like we work in this industry, maybe we're more familiar with what a heat pump is, how it works and the mechanics of it, or what a solar PV system is and what the right one to get and how many panels do you need.
I'm always giving out about acronyms. I had to get that pronounced to me there a few minutes ago, but I hate being in a group of people and then them throwing out all these acronyms because they're used to speaking to each other like that.
Yeah.
But like I could very easily start doing that about, my industry to people and you're just going to lose them. So slow down with your acronyms, especially you, Ferg.
You don't have any.
Ferg.
Yeah.
Is that an acronym?
No one.
If it's not, it should be. Yeah. So, but I do think we need to meet them where they're at in terms of their knowledge and level. And really it is kind of bringing them on that journey of kind of say, letting them incubate it. Because I think the other thing we talk about, there's often this kind of question of, God, how are we not doing more retrofits? How are we not doing more? But like, it's a big investment decision for people. Like, and like, you don't just, it's not like say buying, a Sky TV package or something like that. Like, it's not like, we're an instant decision you can make on the day. And Fergal will tell you, like, we meet with customers and there could be 3, 4, 5 engagements before we walk a customer through to get them to a level of comfort to make that investment. Like, the grants help, but it's still a big investment. Like, there's kind of 2 to 3 major investments you'll make in your life. The first one is buying your house. The second one is going to be renovating, maybe putting a new extension on, buying that big fancy car, whatever you might want to be getting. Retrofitting the house is a big investment decision because they're thinking about it in the terms of, like, say, 15, 20, 25 years, future-proofing the house for what it might need tomorrow. I think the point you also made, which is, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I get the heat pump and it changes? I think that we're getting to the point where we're kind of almost reaching a steady state. It kind of, do you remember like when smartphones first came out? Everyone had to have the newest smartphone every year, right? And iPhone sales went through the roof because they were just selling new iPhones, and they might make minor changes or tweaks. But the changes now are kind of relatively small in the technology now, that customers now are kind of not changing their phone every year or every 2 years. They're holding on to them and kind of going, it's an extra pixel on the camera, I'm not going to bother. And I think heat pumps are the same. Like a heat pump, how it works today is pretty much going to be how a heat pump works tomorrow. Solar PV systems, you know, all that might happen is they might cram a few extra cells onto a panel where it kind of, you know, puts out a bit more power out of a panel. But it's more the size is changing than, you know.
I do think the technology has caught up on itself, because the original solar that came out 10 years ago, you know, was sold as this new amazing product, and all it did genuinely was give you hot water.
Yeah.
Now it's so much different to that. And look, technology will always keep advancing, and obviously, you know, you can, as you said, you can buy a better phone, you can buy a better tool for whatever it is. But I do think the technology in solar PV is at a level that you can be comfortable, that like I'd be comfortable, and I am getting solar PV put into my own home now at the moment, and
Who's doing that for you?
It's none of your business, thanks very much. But but genuinely going solar is doing it for the Resolute Group. But I know that that's an investment that I can actually stand over, because yes, the technology will advance, but I'm going to get my return on my solar, because the technology is there now, that I can see the numbers and I can see that the product is going to deliver that, you know? Yeah. So can we talk about solar for a few minutes? Is that okay?
Of course.
So you're doing wind farms and I presume you're doing solar as well. Are you involved in solar?
We have solar projects, both in the UK and Ireland. That's very much though at the generation level. So when we kind of talk about retrofits and behind the walls, obviously you have kind of what we call huge ground mounted projects, and these things could be taken over, you know, 4 or 5 fields, solar farms as they call them. But in terms of the solar PV that we're talking about, this is basically the same principles, just applied on a domestic property.
And that's why I like that. Yeah. Because what you're doing is you're looking at companies like your company that you're with, who are investing millions into a product, and you're able to get a domestic version of that. To me, that gives me a lot of comfort. Yeah. Because it says to me, well, if these guys are investing this into huge farms, and I'm able to get my own, you know, 10 to 14 panels on my home, you know, I'm happy that I'm using a similar product, and therefore it's a solid investment. Am I right in saying that?
It absolutely is, and I think that's reflected in the number of people who are investing in solar at the moment. I think the one unique part about solar, and certainly where we've seen it accelerate over the last kind of say number of years, has been like you make an investment in say a heat pump or in insulating your home. What you're going to see is you are going to see the reduction in your energy bills. That's clear, right? And you're going to see that almost immediately you'll see a reduction in the demand in the home, right? But I think what really helped solar PV jump to the next level was people were investing in solar PV. And in other countries, up until maybe about 2 years ago, in other countries, you could get paid back for any excess. So essentially how solar PV works, again, not to kind of dumb it down for yourselves, but more just maybe for the audience itself, is essentially what it does is it works on 3 key principles. It kind of looks at what is the energy demand in your house, and if that's there, you can create a hierarchy. You can go, okay, that can use for the demand in the house, and run your fridge or run whatever else is in your charge your EV car. You can set up a second hierarchy then, is that if you want, you can use some excess solar PV and heat up your hot water tank to create some hot water through what's called an eddy, which is basically just a kind of diverter which kind of puts hot water into your tank.
The eddy system as well. Yeah. A lot of people would have heard it.
Yeah. And then the third kind of hierarchy that we now have in Ireland, which is great for customers, is if those 2 first things are met and there's excess energy left over, you can now give that back to the grid or back to ESB networks, if you want to call it that, or back to your supplier. Yeah. And each month, every supplier in Ireland now, so energy companies like SSE or other energy companies, they have to give you back a payment for the excess energy that you've given back to the grid. So essentially now, back to that point of being prosumers, actively participating in the energy system, we now have customers who are giving energy back to the system and getting paid for that. And that used to be a huge bone of contention for customers. We had occasions when customers were going, I want 2 batteries, but you don't need 2. I am not giving 1 single kilowatt of energy back to the grid. I want to save energy. And the cost equation of the 2 batteries just didn't make any sense. But it was just that notion of there's no way I'm giving any energy back to this grid or back to the system for free, right? So now that we have what's called the microgeneration payment, so essentially as an energy customer, once you sign up, You can let your energy company know that you've got like a solar PV system. You can register with ESB Networks and with your supplier. You can now get paid back each month. And again, maybe to put a plug in for our own company and organisation, we work with a company called Activate, and we have one of the best microgeneration export rates in the market at the moment. So again, it's really great that customers can get paid on a quarterly basis for that energy that they give back to the grid.
Savage. What's your thoughts, Ferg?
I was just thinking there that solar PV doesn't work in Ireland, Pete, does it?
Are you myth busting again?
I'm trying my best, but I suppose it's something that comes up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's often not considered like, solar PV is only for countries like Spain, Italy, or some of the Middle Eastern countries where they have sunshine, all year round. And it's absolutely not true. Like, again, I have a solar PV in my system. I have pretty much free hot water from April time right through to October time. My wife and my kids never get up, or myself, and don't have hot water in the tank, which is absolutely fantastic. And on top of that, like, as an energy customer myself, about every 3 months I get a notification to say we've just put money back into your energy account to give you a discount. So it absolutely works in Ireland. It just needs light. It doesn't need sunshine per se. And like everything, you just need to think about the orientation of where you're putting it. But again, any good solar PV company will do a proper assessment for you. Think about how they can maximize the solar exposure for those panels and make sure that they set up right for you. And again, talk you through how to benefit. Because I think what's important about that solar PV piece as well is it's having a solar PV company who's going to have a conversation about how you live in your house. What type of demand do you have there on a daily basis?
I actually think
do you have a
hugely
battery?
Important.
It's hugely important.
And it gets overlooked because we would get inquiries for like, what is the biggest system I can get onto this roof? And if I can't get enough on, I need an A-frame out the back as well. Yeah. I said, what are you trying to do? It's funny. Yeah. But the actual size the system to suit the needs of the house is very important. Yeah.
And that is a key principle. Like, no point in oversizing just to, as you say, maybe to get back rebates, because at some stage it'll become a cost equation that just doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
The comfort I'm getting out of this as well is that your company, again, and I kind of mentioned earlier, is using solar PV farms. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're developing some solar PV farms now. Again, probably much less so than traditionally. We've always come from a heritage of developing of renewables, mostly wind farms. So again, if back to the Airtricity days, very much pioneers in the development of wind energy. Eddie O'Connor would have been seen very much as a visionary of that. Airtricity back in the original days.
Now I know where they got the name from.
There you go.
Back in the original days, and then obviously, again, when SSE invested and bought the company, again, that just kind of helped really accelerate kind of that. And we have huge amounts of onshore wind farms, which are the ones you see on the land, and then offshore wind farms, loads of them in the UK. Further behind than we should be and need to be in Ireland. But again, I think there's some good policy direction there that we just need to get on with, and then we need to start putting wind farms into the sea and make sure we're kind of maximising that. Like, we've an abundance of wind resources here in Ireland. We're an island nation, and we should be maximising that in terms of putting wind farms in the sea.
So here's one that everyone's at home, or everyone that's listening to this is thinking, ask him this. Is the grid at its max? Are you giving all your energy to these farmers and data centers and all that type of stuff? Answer that one, Stuart.
Yeah, well, thankfully I don't necessarily have to have the answer to that question. That's more to do with the CRU and the policymakers. As a supplier and a renewables company, like, we want to build out the assets that are required to support the energy demands of Ireland for the future. Like, so again, onshore renewables, clean energy to support the growth in energy demand. Ireland's population is growing. We do have data centres in Ireland, but we've lots of businesses, and that's going to continue to grow over the next number of years. So again, let's not sleepwalk into a point where we do have more demand than we have capacity to meet that demand. I think maybe a little while ago there was more tightness in the market, but we've seen more development over the last number of years of new assets that are coming onto the grid to support that. But again, as I said, offshore, and to continue to grow that offshore is something that we need to keep doing, because again, we need to have, there's no point in having all this clean energy in homes in terms of heat pumps and solar PV if then all the energy that's going into those homes is coming from, say, oil, coal, gas. And thankfully, that's definitely changing. Ireland has played a leading role in having targets of renewable energy on the grid. And there's some days when a huge portion of the energy that goes into homes in Ireland is coming from renewable energy. And that's when you really then are tackling climate change. When you can actually address say, greenhouse emissions and obviously how we produce energy and create that in a more clean way, through to making sure it's transported through that network as efficiently as it possibly can. So making sure that no kilowatts of energy are lost in the transport of that into the home. And then when it goes into the home, it's then used, in the best way possible. That it's not like, I heard you talking earlier on to the ventilation and insulation. There's no point in pumping clean green energy into a house to just pour out the walls or pour out the roof or pour out whatever. You need to make sure that that precious commodity, because it is a precious commodity and it'll become a more precious commodity in the future, is used in a really efficient way. And we kind of make sure we're kind of cherishing the fact that we don't want to use and waste energy. We want to maximize the use of it.
And again, I'd often say this, but we actually have a really good system where you can get somebody to come to your home and can give you all of this information on a domestic level. Like, when you're getting your solar panels into your home, they'll tell you exactly, what your return's going to be. It'll tell you how efficient your home can be, BR ratings, air tightness ratings. Like, there's so many different, so much information that you can get out there, but it's actually not that hard to get it. There's people going around doing these assessments for you. And I think that's excellent, because it does give people the information to make their own decision rather than being told, you must do this because I know that that's the best thing for you. Information is presented to you and you're able to sit down and be, what did you call people?
Prosumers.
Prosumers. You can be a prosumer. You can be a prosumer. And basically what you're doing is sitting down with your partner and you're looking at your costs and how you can improve them.
And information makes people feel more in control. Like, makes them feel that they're making informed decisions, as opposed to, and why you get hesitancy and people kind of maybe not making decisions quickly, and they kind of feel, I'm not getting the right information here, I'm not being told. And I think actually the unique perspective, and back to that point I raised at the start, where the evolution of energy companies, in a kind of a perverse way, in one way, we're actually actively promoting people to use less of our product. Our traditional products were always kind of putting energy, both electricity and gas, into people's homes.
So you're a bit of a split personality there. You're supplying electricity and you're telling people.
Yeah, but again, we recognise that point of it being a precious commodity. Like, we need to make sure that we're kind of helping people make the right decision. We have an obligation as custodians of an energy system to make sure that it's used the most effective way it can be, and that's making sure that we're not wasting it. And I think where the kind of the social contract needs to happen with homeowners needs to be around making sure that they're reaping the benefits of the investment they're making, right? So I think that's where we need to kind of really help sell this, right? Is we can't just sell it on climate change. Okay, that is definitely a kind of key point on consideration for homeowners, but they run homes, and homes are like little mini businesses where people want to make sure 100%. That they're getting that return, right? And they think about it in the context of what's in it for me of doing this right thing. And the what's in it for me, we have to really, as an industry, and Fergal will know this from, say, when we meet with customers, the decision-making process is on a number of factors, and we need to appeal to all of those. So is my house going to be more comfortable and warm? That's one consideration. And can we really kind of, show and demonstrate that that's going to be the case? If I make this investment, what's the payback going to be like on this over that period of time? And, it's never going to be like a 3-year payback. This is a big investment. But as I said, it's one of the top 3 or 4 investments you'll make in your life. But we have to talk about that equation through a number of factors. And I think often what happens is when we calculate the return on investment for an energy upgrade, and the name kind of points people in that direction, people just think about it in the context of, okay, I'm going to invest in this house. Okay, the cost of investment is, I'll make a number of 20,000 euros, and I'm going to get 500 euros back on my energy bill every year. So I just divide that by the number of years, and that's how I calculate my payback. And that is one way to calculate, but there's so many other ways to calculate the benefit of how that happens. So as an example, I've invested in my house over the last number of years, and I've done it step by step. I didn't do it all in one go. I put a heat pump in, I put solar PV in, I've done the external insulation, but I did that in the means by which I could kind of manage that and the disruption to my home. I get my house up to an A2 rating now. Banks now are offering really great mortgage rates for low green rated homes.
Yeah.
So when you build that into your calculation, so let's say if you can get like 0.5% or 1% off your mortgage rate, then you add that into the equation. That's a significant sum. If people have, like, say, a 2,000 euro mortgage or a 3,000 euro mortgage on a monthly basis, and you take 1% off that rate, that could be a couple of £100 a month coming off their interest. Now add that into the equation, and then it's again helping that payback period as well. So there's lots of other ways to kind of calculate the benefit, and that kind of, how we kind of position that social contract with homeowners. You do the right thing, there are dividends beyond just energy efficiency and climate change. There's commercial benefits to you. And the microgen export rate is another great example of that. There's something in this for you. I'm doing the right thing. How do I get paid back for doing the right thing? And microgen export and all those kind of things. So I think we need to appeal to a number of levels to homeowners of why they're making the investment.
Excellent. You touched on a bit of a mythbuster earlier on. Have you any more questions there for Stuart?
I'm glad that you finally linked Airtricity and SSE in the one sentence there, because I was looking at you going, he obviously thinks that SSE is Stuart's sustainable energy or something.
Isn't that not what he said?
Oh, that's it, yeah. That's what it stands for.
If only I had all those shareholdings.
What I would say is that just listening, and it's one thing that has become obvious over the last few years, is it used to always be location, location, location when it came to houses. And now it's more location, location, energy rating.
Yeah.
It's a huge consideration.
Yeah.
People would always ask, paybacks are a dangerous thing to get into.
Yeah.
I always think that, fair enough, yes, it's a big investment to upgrade your home, but there's a comfort side of things. We were talking about air quality on a previous podcast, but there's also an increase in value in your home.
Absolutely.
I think everything, when you weigh everything up,
and MyHome.ie have done recent surveys, and they're suggesting that one of the number one consideration criteria for homeowners when thinking about buying a new home now is the energy rating.
We've gone full circle then, if that's that's
a huge thing now, because again, you're thinking about, and in fairness, the BO rating, whilst it has its kind of flaws and there's things that could be changed and fixed, but it's a good shorthand for homeowners to understand what is the energy performance of this house. And they also equate that to, if I do buy this house, how much of an investment am I going to have to make to get it from there to there? So if you can invest in your own home and get it up to a B rating or A rating, the level of kind of say resale value that can command versus a house that's at a G rating, again, location of course plays a factor. But again, if it's the same house in the same area and one's an A and one's an F or one's a G, that house that's an A or a B is going to command a significant additional premium from having that energy rating on that home. And I think that's become much more of a consideration for homeowners, both in the context of climate action, but also thinking about, I'm going to have to run this house. I'm going to have to pay for the energy in this house.
Yeah. And coming from the builder's point of view, the cost of construction is so high now. People are making that decision when they're purchasing a home. They're saying, okay, well, if we purchase an F or a G, in comparison to purchasing a B1 or something like that, there's a huge difference, because they don't have to immediately put a load of money into the home to bring it up to a
I think there's an understanding, if you're buying a G or an F rated house, that there's a significant investment required to bring it up to where you want to be. Yeah. So I think that's it, I want to move on to something. You're always jumping in ahead. It's very hard to get a word in.
You're very touchy today, Fergal.
I just wanted to ask Stuart, because I know you're involved in various SAI run programs. Yeah. Where you see it or where you're at in terms of, I know we say one-stop shop is the one being bandied around now all the time. It's the latest version of a few that they've tried, but this to me is it's a very good one. But you're also involved in warmer homes. You're involved in individual grants as well.
Yeah, and
as well.
To be honest, as we considered what kind of an energy service and solutions business we wanted to be in SSE Airtricity, what was important for us was that that there was a democratization of that, that it wasn't just available to the people who could pay. So a really important part for SSE, again, not to throw out the acronyms and kind of buzzwords, but we kind of wanted to be a champion for a net zero tomorrow. How do we help the whole of society access the benefits of net zero? Okay, so from an SSE's perspective, we said, well, we're going to get involved in retrofit, and we're going to get involved in upgrading homes. We have to be able to kind of help customers, because we have lots of customers who kind of have the means to make this investment, and we also have customers who don't. And again, we know there's a kind of a context of fuel poverty, and often people are making decisions at home to not use energy, and likely if they're making those decisions but not using energy at home, it's unlikely that they're going to have the 10 or the 20 or the 30,000 euros to make that investment to put in the solar PV or the heat pump or the insulation. Now, thankfully, both SSE and government, in fairness to them, have a policy aligned that they say, right, we recognise that there is fuel poverty in Ireland, and we need to help every level. So SSE is involved in the one-stop shop. We've developed that and pioneered that process over a number of years. But we've also worked across the Warmer Home Scheme. So the Warmer Home Scheme, for people who don't know, is essentially a scheme that's fully funded by government for people who meet the criteria for being designated in fuel poverty. And that allows them to get access to upgrades specific to the needs of their home. And it's a fantastic scheme. So we're involved in that as well. We've been involved and worked on pilot schemes with the SCI in terms of solar PV for medically vulnerable customers, so customers who have specific designations in networks to get, if their power went off, they might have medical devices at home. So again, in recognising they might have higher energy demands, the government come up with a scheme to give them a free solar PV system. A fantastic scheme, and again, we've been involved in that for a number of years as well. And then again, one-stop shop is for a certain part of the market. We've also been involved in what's called the Better Energy Home scheme as well. So again, that's that piece of, like myself, if you want to do it step by step, and you maybe have a bit of an ability to manage that yourself, then that's a great way to go about it as well. And SSE has been involved in that as well. So for us, it is making sure that, it's that piece of, and again, it's one of these words you hear quite a bit in terms of the climate, it's that just transition. So is it making sure that everybody is transitioning to the right level of a net zero future at the same level, and that the people maybe who are in fuel poverty or don't have the means aren't getting left behind? So that's a kind of a key aspect of why when we do energy efficiency, we want to make sure we're serving all those parts of the market.
Yeah.
To answer your question?
It does, and I hope there's people listening to this saying, I never knew about that grant, or I never knew about that grant, and that's the whole idea of why we're here, I suppose, is awareness. And it'd be great. I mean, what I'd say is definitely do your research.
Yeah, we often say this as well. A lot of the time, some people are eligible for grants. There is a fear out there that, it's going to be means tested. Does that mean I'm going to lose something? Again, we'd be trying to say to people, just you can, I won't be able to get this word right, anonymously, is that right? Anonymously, you can do it. You can just check the research.
Yeah, right the first time.
You can.
That's like that.
Thanks, Ferg. But you can see and do your research very simply just by looking it up online. You can see if you're eligible, and an awful lot of times it's the home that is actually eligible for the grant. It's not you, so it doesn't matter if they're not asking for your bank bills and all this type of stuff. They're basically, if the home is eligible, you will get the grant. Yeah,
and just to be clear, the Warmer Home Scheme, it won't impact you for anything else. I mean, the Warmer Home Scheme is specifically to identify people. And again, there's a number of criteria, maybe are you in receipt of a carer's allowance? Yeah. Are you in receipt of social welfare benefits specific to, like, say, maybe being elderly or, having other kind of care obligations? And it's a great way to support those people, because those people often have higher bills proportional to the kind of the income in the house. So again, don't have a fear factor. Put your name down the list, get your name on the list. SSEI will come out, they'll do an assessment of your needs, and then they'll appoint an organisation like Fergal's organisation or my organisation to go out and do that work. And it's all free of charge. Yeah. Can I bust a myth if that's okay?
Do it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Well, I think you have to introduce it with Mythbusters.
Introducing Mythbusters.
One of the things we get, which is a huge barrier to people taking on an upgrade project, is often people think that you have to move out of your house if you're going to get an upgrade done to it. And we get this all the time. People go, I'd never do that. And I could be sitting in pubs or in friends' houses and going, this is, takes ages and it costs X, Y, and Z. And, you'd have to move your house and you're going to have to rent a hotel or move in with your parents. 95% of the homes that SSE upgrade, and I'm sure it's the same for most of the registered one-stop shops or upgrade companies, homeowners never have to move out of the house.
I'd say 96%, just to be one.
Yeah. Well, that's your company's little 1% better than mine for. But again, what I would say is that is a huge myth and a huge barrier for customers thinking about taking on an upgrade project. It's, the most level of disruption you're going to have is, like, the biggest and most disruptive job is probably the external insulation. But think about it, that's all on the outside of your house. So there's maybe the not so nice look of a scaffold around your house for 2 or 3 weeks, but you can still get in and out of your house. If you are lifting floorboards to put in a heat pump, it's maybe done a day and a half. So the worst disruption might be go around your mum and dad's for the day, go out to the shops, whatever. By the time you get back, we have the floorboards back down, and that won't be a disruption. There's no disruption in putting solar PV in. It's a half a day, 1 day job at max. And outside of doing underfloor heating and that, so typically, unless you're doing a major renovation where you're doing a whole new extension and you're kind of tearing down walls, but that's not what we do, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about giving you energy upgrades, which are specific measures, i.e. insulation, heat pumps, solar PV. And 96, I'll go with Fergal's number, 96%, you do not have to move out of your home. So I really want that not to be a barrier for people thinking about taking on an upgrade.
And while we're busting myths you said another one there, and it's like moving out is one thing. Unless you're doing underfloor heating, you don't have to do underfloor heating with a heat pump. Yeah. It's another one that keeps coming up. And I suppose there are obstacles, and I would certainly advise any homeowner, whether you're going to do a home energy upgrade or not, to contact a one-stop shop or contact SSE, find out the information. At least then you'll know the information, because I would I think there's people holding back
Yeah.
on the basis of what they heard in the pub, or you have to do this.
This
you
is
have to
very
do that.
hard to believe. The fella down the pub is actually not an expert. Now, I know the way he delivers it and the way he says, especially when he's got 4 or 5 points on board, it's very believable. But he's actually not an expert, I swear to God. Question him on a couple of things.
Oh, they don't work.
They don't. Oh, they
What you can
make
do is you
noise.
get him on
Couldn't do
behind
that.
the walls next
Behind
time
the walls,
and really
yeah.
test
That's
him on,
definitely
really
what we
test
do.
him on his knowledge.
Definitely
Bring
what we
down
do.
John from the pub and see what he actually knows about heat pumps. But
Okay.
again, you're absolutely right. I mean, like there's loads of myths that can be busted out there, and I think that is so important that podcasts like this, organizations like the SCI, organizations like registered one-stop shops, ask the experts. Come and meet the people who actually know what they're talking about. Don't listen to, oh, I heard that from my sister-in-law, or I heard that from John, or I heard that from Mary. If you want to know, this information is free. It's in our interest to make sure that you are informed.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely,
informed, you're going to take action.
Yeah.
But if you're not informed, you're just going to be, sitting in limbo, not taking any action, and you'll be left behind. So I really would encourage people to go seek the right advice.
Be a prosumer.
Prosumer.
Prosumer. Professional consumer. We're running out of time. Any further questions, Ferg? You flew. I think this is the most questions you've ever asked in your podcast career.
Get me warmed up. I'm
Very
off,
impressed.
you know.
Have to wear those funky runners more often. Is there anything else you'd like to add yourself, Stuart? It's been an excellent conversation, by the way. Really enjoyed it.
I'm delighted to be here. Like I said, I think podcasts like this are a great way to get customers informed, because again, that's when we're going to move forward. Like we have capacity in the market to do way more than we should be doing. We've got huge targets at a national level to
Here's
get
a
on
question
with.
then: are we going to reach those targets? Are we in a good place?
No, we're not. But I don't.
Honesty,
think,
what's
but,
going
but
on
I
here?
But I don't think that should be a controversial statement. I mean,
I agree with you.
I think as a nation, like anything, if you aim for there and you come here, well, isn't it still amazing that we got to there? So, like again, I think the government did the right thing. You got to set a strong ambition. You got to really move the country forward. You got to really kind of showcase where you want to be and show a kind of leading position in a global society. Because again, that's where we need to be.
That's right, and we're getting close to that as well.
We often hear like, well, what can little old Ireland do? Well, Ireland's got some of the most progressive and both at a policy level where we need to be, where we need to go. So I do think that's really important. So again, me saying that I don't think should be a controversial thing, because I think if we even get to like 75% or 70% of those targets, that will be a phenomenal transformation. This will be one of the most transformational things in the state. What we need to do to the built environment in terms of, say, buildings across the island, domestic and commercial, is akin to rural electrification, and in fact, if not even bigger. This is absolutely massive, the transition that Irish buildings have to go through over the next, say, 10, 20 years. And we have to start somewhere, and we have to set the ambition big. So, and even if we do fall short, I still think it'll be a phenomenal amount of achievement if we get through even 75% of that.
And you know what I think is something worth mentioning as well is you actually do get the grants, because I think some people think, oh no, geez, I won't get it or whatever, it'll take ages. Do the paperwork correctly, go through the procedure, which is not that difficult, and genuinely the money does land in your account.
Or even better, go through a one-stop
Go
shop.
through a one-stop shop.
Don't do the paperwork.
And that's the big
95%
one-stop shop.
or 96%.
And that's the thing people need to remember. Like, the risk is on my organisation and Fergal's organisation to get it right, because ultimately we are giving you the benefit and the discount of the grant upfront on your bill.
Yeah.
If it's not right because of something we as organisations have done wrong, the risk of the grant not being paid sits with us.
Yeah.
So you as the homeowner have the comfort of knowing that that's being de-risked by us as organisations, and that's a huge, I think, comfort to people.
And the SEAI, you do come and inspect, and they're quite rigid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Stuart, it's been a revelation. It's been the intensity in the room. The intensity in the room. Revelation has been brilliant. All joking aside, it's been great. Some great stuff there, and some really honest, positive stuff as well. And I really appreciate you going for that. Last 30 seconds. Can people reach out to you? Where can they see you? Where would you recommend that they go to connect with yourself or your company?
Yeah, so again, if you go to the SSE Airtricity website, most of the information that you need in terms of how to get in contact with us, the types of service we provide, and it's as simple as putting your name, number, and a few small details into that, and you get a call back very, very quickly from someone who'll be able to organise someone to come out and give you a survey and a consultation.
And do inquire. It doesn't cost anything to inquire. Get the information.
Absolutely.
That's the important.
And you can get a price off Ferg as well, and you can trade the two of them off each other. Brilliant. As always, folks, you can reach out to us. You can please like, please comment, please follow, please do all that good stuff. That was another excellent Behind the Walls podcast with Pete and
Ferg.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Stuart.
Come on, Stuart.
Cheers, guys.